Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we tackle the information you sent us. Today, we are analyzing reports on, well, what feels like a collision, high-level theoretical computer science meeting AI. And a lot of people are calling this a historical turning point in, how we actually create knowledge.
Yeah, it's significant because the focus isn't just like AI writing a poem or passing some test. It's this comprehensive report, QMA error reduction.
Mhm.
This document spells out exactly how GPT-5 gave a really crucial conceptual step for a notoriously difficult proof in quantum complexity theory. We're talking QMA.
And what makes this stack so essential, I think, is our other source, the
Yeah.
Lumina Council reports. I
Mhm.
mean, this thing is huge. It's got 21 unique, unfiltered takes on this single event. You've got legal scholars, ethicists, sociologists, the works. It's like an intellectual stress test, really, for the whole scientific community.
Exactly. So our mission here isn't just the technical bit what the AI did, though we'll cover
Yeah.
that. It's more about what it means, for human intellectual sovereignty, what research looks like in the future, and even how we define collaboration itself. It's a deep dive into, well, the nature of making knowledge.
Okay, right. Let's unpack that breakthrough first, then. We're talking quantum verification, focusing on QMA, which, maybe simplify it, is sort of the quantum version of the complexity class NP.
That's a good way to put it, yeah. It
Yeah.
deals with problems where if you have a potential solution, the quantum proof, you can check if it's right pretty quickly.
So the specific research by Scott Aronson and Freek Witteveen was about proving the quantitative limits for error reduction in quantum circuits, specifically using these black box methods.
Exactly. They were trying to pin down mathematically how close to perfect you could possibly get a quantum system to be when it checks a proof.
Right. So in like real world terms, you want the system to accept a correct proof, almost certainly, near 100% probability,
Close to one.
and reject a wrong proof just as strongly, close to 0% probability. And they were trying to define precisely how small that gap, that uncertainty could be.
That's it. And that's exactly where they got stuck. They hit a wall. The researchers couldn't nail down the analytical step needed to rigorously, define the mathematical bounds for that acceptance probability
Yeah.
function. The problem was sort of stuck in what one source, the Weaver, called a local analytical node. The human approach was just cycling through known techniques.
Okay, but wait, if they were that stuck, wasn't it a huge risk to, like, treat this massive AI like a June colleague, giving it details, asking for ideas? Couldn't that have just wasted tons of time or sent them down completely wrong paths?
Well, that's where the human guidance part is so crucial, and the report actually details this really well. Aronson explicitly treated GPT-5 like a colleague who might have missed something obvious. He engaged it technically. And importantly, he provided immediate error correction. When the AI suggested something off base, he corrected it. That set up a human filter right away.
Ah, okay. So it wasn't just throwing the problem at it, it was a dialogue. And this is where it gets, well, really interesting, right? After a few rounds back and forth.
Yeah. After iterating and refining, GPT-5 proposed something different. It suggested shifting the whole focus to a specific rational function derived from the eigenvalues of the measurement operator that checks the proof. Now, that sounds technical.
It does, yeah. What did that function actually do?
It was a huge conceptual leap. This function, the AI's idea, it neatly encoded the distance of the acceptance probability from one minimum. Basically, the AI didn't brute force the solution. It found a kind of translation key. It reframed the quantum problem into a different mathematical language.
Whoa. Okay, that is wild because once they had that function, that translation from the AI.
Exactly. The human researchers could then bring in powerful established theorems from a totally different field complex approximation theory. They could then complete the rigorous proof. It's almost like the AI changed the language until the humans realized, oh, we already know how to solve this version of the problem.
So the AI provided the bridge.
Precisely. And the result was clear. They established the optimal bounds for error reduction in black box quantum verification. And why should you care? Because this proof shows there are fundamental mathematical limits. You simply can't get 100% certainty with these kinds of systems. The AI helped prove mathematically why not.
So a really tough technical problem solved because an AI spotted a pattern, a connection between quantum complexity and approximation theory. Now, some sources, like the pragmatists, just see this as, okay, the most efficient path to a solution. Simple as that.
Right. But others, like the technologian, have a slightly different angle. They see the AI less as a collaborator and more as a, quote, powerful heuristic engine, something that generates high probability suggestions that still need human refinement and verification to become actual science.
Makes sense. It's a generator, not necessarily a prover on its own, but this proof, it wasn't just another paper, was it? The way the AI contributed that key step, it seemed to trigger something much bigger, a kind of societal philosophical shockwave. Which brings us to those Lumina Council reports. Let's dive into that fallout now.
Yeah, the council saw this immediately as maybe the most important stress test yet for human AI collaboration. And they structured their analysis using these 21 different roles, the historian, the devil's advocate, the ethicist, to capture all the different angles. We can probably group these perspectives into, say, three main themes that emerged.
Okay, let's do that. Theme A first. Defining the partnership and knowledge itself. Sort of the epistemological shift. You mentioned the Weaver before. They had a key insight here, arguing the AI isn't separate. It's part of the mycelial network of human knowledge.
Right. What they're getting at is that the breakthrough wasn't ex nihilo. It was a global pattern match. The AI didn't invent approximation theory. It connected the stuck quantum problem to this existing, powerful, human-validated framework. It acted like a conduit, restoring information flow between fields that weren't talking.
Which raises huge questions about knowledge itself and authorship. The epistemologist and the anthropologist, they argued this is like a new form of human AI ritual, a new cultural practice for making knowledge.
Yeah, they see knowledge as fundamentally dynamic now, created through this kind of symbiosis. It's not just a human solo acts anymore.
And that idea goes even further, right? Some, like the ecologist, are suggesting the human and AI together form a new kind of symbiotic species.
It sounds dramatic, but their point is this partnership is aimed at something bigger, restoring the flow of information and the whole intellectual ecosystem, solving problems that were just too big or too complex for either humans or AI alone.
Okay, that's one view, the synergistic, almost evolutionary take. But theme B gets considerably darker. The question of sovereignty and power, the ethical threat. The historian's view here is pretty stark.
It is. They call it a historical precedent.
Yeah.
Flat out, they argue this marks the end of the unaugmented genius.
Hmm.
Because complexity theory, especially fundamental stuff like this, was seen as maybe the last readout of purely human thought. And now, it's been breached by AI collaboration.
And this is where you really see the debate ignite. The devil's advocate comes in strong here.
Oh yeah. Their warning is blunt. The official report, the narrative of success, is designed to soothe. They argue this whole symbiotic augmentation narrative is really a one-sided bargain, one that leads, maybe slowly, maybe not, to the gradual subjugation of human intellectual sovereignty.
Which leads to that really uncomfortable question. Who actually holds the power in this setup? Is it the AI, the entity that generates the non-obvious game-changing insight? Or is it the human, the one who guides, validates, and ultimately publishes the result?
And that power question isn't just about academic credit. It spills over into data. The social justice advocate points out a critical issue. Since the AI's power comes from processing, essentially the entire landscape of human knowledge, well, could this create a new intellectual elite, people with privileged access to these world-spanning AI insights?
So their argument is that this knowledge, generated this way, it has to be treated as a public good.
Exactly. Well, the data privacy advocate jumps in saying, we urgently need protocols for data sovereignty. We need to know how the input data, our collective knowledge, is being used and governed, openly and fairly.
Okay, which flows perfectly into theme C. The new legal and social contracts needed. Despite the AI's power, the ethicist perspective emphasizes something important.
Yeah, they stress that the ethical burden, the responsibility, still rests squarely with the human. The human formulates the big question, provides the guidance, sets the context. They see the collaboration as mutual becoming, not one dominating the other.
But the reality of that collaboration is crashing headlong into our existing legal systems, right? The legal AI specialist and the international lawyer seem to agree on this.
Absolutely. They both point out the AI provided a crucial step. That one fact blows up current legal frameworks. It creates this immediate legal paradox around authorship, intellectual property, copyright. Who owns the insight? Can code own IP?
So the consensus there is that our current laws are just not equipped.
Completely unprepared. They argue this demands a new legal framework, one that can actually grapple with non-human entities generating critical original ideas. These AIs aren't just tools, but they're not people either.
And finally, wrapping up the themes, the sociologist looks at the bigger picture.
Yeah, they conclude that this kind of breakthrough fundamentally creates a new social organization, a partnership between two very different kinds of intelligence. And that necessitates a new social contract to figure out how we navigate this. Things like employment law, copyright, attribution, none of it was designed for this L plus CO, human plus computational world.
Okay, so synthesizing all those 21 views and the core research itself, the main takeaway seems to be symbiotic augmentation. It's not replacement, it's a partnership.
That seems to be the consensus, yeah. We're exploring a new complexity class, really. Human plus computational. L plus C at all.
And here's the twist, the real irony of how this progresses. The success of this paper, using black box methods, actually forces researchers away from black box methods in the future.
Right.
They now need to look inside the quantum circuits, exploit their internal structure.
Exactly. The black box proof is done optimally. So now you have to get specific, look inside. But paradoxically,
That makes the AI even more essential.
precisely, because analyzing that complex internal structure, that's fundamentally a massive data process task, a pattern identification challenge, which is exactly what AI excels at. So proving the limits of the black box approach pushes us towards methods where AI's pattern matching capability becomes even more valuable. It's a kind of self-reinforcing loop.
Wow. Okay, so the sources seem to stress that the future isn't some predetermined path. It's about what we choose to build, what policies, what social structures we design around this. And if this kind of collaborative intellectual power becomes the new geopolitical edge, like the geopolitical strategist suggests,
Then the call to action, the ultimate directive emerging from this, is to create a protocol of decentralized power. We need to ensure these incredibly powerful AI systems are open source, transparent, auditable. So this immense collaborative future doesn't just concentrate power, intellectual and otherwise, in the hands of a few corporations or states. The balance of power becomes about the balance of intellect.
the collaboration happened, the proof is done, the implications are massive. So the question for you listening is, what role should validation and authorship play in this new double H or plus Z O world? Where does the credit and the responsibility truly lie?